afternoon. It is Sunday, February 9th. I'm Yumna Naufal, and these are today's headlines. Attending the St. Maroon Day Mass, President Michel Sulaiman describes as shameful the ongoing delay in the formation of a new government. Free Patriotic Movement leader MP Michel Aoun announces his support for the recently declared Kirki Treaty, saying that he will see that it is implemented. And the UN's humanitarian chief, Valerie Amos, vows to push on with relief deliveries to civilians trapped in Homs in Syria after a Red Crescent aid convoy was attacked there. President Michel Sulaiman deems as shameful the ongoing delay in the formation of a new government. He said, quote, "Committing to Lebanon is more important than hanging on to a specific minister." He made his remarks in an indirect reference to the Free Patriotic Movement's demands that it retain the Energy Ministry portfolio in the new cabinet. Flaws have emerged in the manner in which we are managing political affairs, Sulaiman said ahead of attending the St. Maroon Feast Day Mass Hotel at Marmaroon Church in Gemmayzeh. The Mass was headed by Beirut Maronite Bishop Boulos Matar and attended by Prime Minister-designate Tamam Salam, Army Commander General Jean Ahwajeh, and a number of other officials. He added that constitutional deadlines must be met because of the people's livelihoods that are at risk. Free Patriotic Movement leader MP Michel Aoun announces his support for the recently declared Kirki Treaty, saying that he will see that it is implemented. He said he wants it implemented because it embodies the principles that Lebanon was built upon. These principles believe in stability and prosperity, he remarked after holding talks at Kirki with Maronite Patriarch Bashar al-Ra'i ahead of the St. Maroon Day Mass. He added that he will not be issuing any further statements, saying that he will make political stances after his Change and Reform Bloc's weekly meeting on Tuesday. For his part, al-Ra'i stressed during the Mass the importance of the Kirki Treaty that was announced earlier this week. He emphasized the need to adhere to the Constitution, preserving national principles, and realizing the dangers that are facing Lebanon. The UN's humanitarian chief, Valerie Amos, has vowed to push on with relief deliveries to civilians trapped in Homs in Syria after a Red Crescent aid convoy was attacked. At least 9 Red Crescent and UN vehicles were trapped in Homs for several hours after dark when the explosion struck, but the team managed to leave shortly before 10 p.m. local time, leaving 2 damaged lorries. Turkish Prime Minister Recep Tayyip Erdogan says Syrian authorities are to be blamed for the attacks on rebels, but opposition activists held President Bashar al-Assad's forces responsible. The UK-based Syrian Observatory for Human Rights said 5 people, including 2 rebel fighters, were killed and 20 wounded by mortar bomb attacks on the Old City area. The humanitarian deal for Homs was the first concrete result of talks launched 2 weeks ago in Geneva to try to end the country's nearly 3-year-old civil war that has killed over 136,000 people, according to the UN. A bomb planted in the car of a Yemeni intelligence colonel exploded near the oil ministry, killing the officer and wounding 3 other people. The blast is the latest in a series of attacks targeting military personnel in a country that is grappling with several armed revolts and negotiating a difficult political transition. The explosive device was planted under the driver's seat in the vehicle of Colonel Mohammed Fadl al-Hussein, the official said, adding that it went off as the car passed near the oil ministry in Sana'a. A bodyguard traveling with Hussein was wounded, in addition to 2 passers-by. Similar attacks have been blamed on al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula, a powerful local affiliate of the global terror network. In regional news, the UN Atomic Watchdog started a second day of talks in Tehran on safeguards to enhance transparency on Iran's nuclear drive and on allegations of its past weapons work. The talks were expected to continue into the afternoon after a first day of meetings was described as constructive by Iran's Atomic Organization spokesman Behrouz Kamalvandi. Iranian media have reported little details of the negotiations with the Vienna-based International Atomic Energy Agency. There has been no comment from the IAEA team, comprised of Chief Inspector Tero Verkhoranta and 4 experts who arrived in Tehran late on Friday. But the encounter is expected to broach allegations that Iran's nuclear work prior to 2003 or possibly since had possible military dimensions. The IAEA is also seeking access, which it has been denied for years, to the Parchin military facility, where it suspects Tehran may have experimented with research related to atomic weapons development. And coming up next, we kick off our women's series with Elizabeth Kisses, author of The Ugly Little Girl. You're not going to want to miss this. Stay. Kicking off Inspirational Women Series 2014, we're trying something new this year. While the focus does remain on inspirational Arab women, I wanted to make an exception because I stumbled upon this particular writer on Twitter and was very inspired by her story. Her name is Elizabeth Kisses, and she lives in Paris, and she is the author of The Ugly Little Girl, a book about believing in yourself in a world that is focused on physical appearances. Elizabeth, can you hear me?
I can indeed.
Thank you for being with me today. In your book, you tell the story of a little girl who was picked on because of her looks, and then she escapes to a school named Odd Bods. Now, what inspired you to write this?
Well, it's kind of an interesting story because I didn't used to be a writer. I was in marketing for many years, and I had a pretty difficult childhood. I was bullied a lot at school. I didn't have much confidence. I thought I was pretty ugly, and a couple of years ago, I was having a cup of coffee with my husband in northern France on the beach, and next to me on a table was a girl that looked just like I did when I was about 10. And I turned around to my husband, and I was very moved. I couldn't believe I was seeing my doppelganger, and I said to him, "Look at this ugly little girl." And really, she was just a spitting image of me: frizzy hair, braces, bad spots, really kind of geeky clothes. And I just thought, I need to write about this little girl. And really what occurred to me was my perception of myself at that age was just ugly. I wasn't ugly at all. It was just my view of myself. And from that point, I just started writing and writing. And I wanted to write a story to help young girls a bit like I was. So those that are bullied or teased and just feel that they don't fit in at school.
Well, you know, in the ugly little girl, kids take self-esteem classes at Odd Bods. Odd Bods being the school that Lizzie, the actual protagonist, goes to. Now, what can your readers take away about self-esteem, and how important is it for little girls to hear about self-esteem when they're toddlers?
Exactly. I mean, when I was a little girl, we didn't talk about self-esteem. No one really mentioned it. And when you were kind of teased at school, maybe your mother got involved and told off the parent of the child bullying you, and then that would make things worse. And then it kind of would go away, but it wouldn't, because every time you were teased, a little bit of you got more crushed and more destroyed. And the real point of the self-esteem lessons, and they actually take place in a hall of mirrors where little girls have to look at themselves in the truth mirror, and they see not just what they look like, but what their inner truth is. So when Libby looks in the mirror, she sees herself as an ugly bug. And the problem is that self-esteem is not something that you can learn. It's not something you can do in class. It needs to be built over time, step by step. And parents really need to be involved in that, because they need to have a conversation with children to understand how they feel about themselves, to help nurture them, to help discuss why they don't feel good about how they look or how they feel, and little by little to help build their confidence.
You know, you talk about parents, and obviously education plays a big role in terms of how little girls and little boys build self-esteem. Do you think the beauty industry can contribute to shifting the focus from maybe physical appearances to inner beauty?
Massively. I mean, this is one of my biggest challenges. I've just joined the Dove panel for natural beauty, and one of their aims is really to change the way the beauty industry portrays women. At the moment, it's impossible to be as perfect as models. I mean, they aren't true to themselves anyway, because most of them are photoshopped or airbrushed. But unfortunately, teen girls aren't aware of that. So they see their skinny legs and their uber thin waists, and they think that's reality, and it's not. So they need to
be looking more at Jennifer Lopez and Kim Kardashian, don't you think? These fuller kind of girls, as opposed to like all these skinny little models. I shouldn't be one to talk, but you know what I'm talking about.
Absolutely, and the thing is, there's no right or wrong. The message is about loving yourself as you are. You know, when you're really thin many young girls want to be bigger. When you've got curves, many women want to be slimmer. It's kind of accepting who you are and being happy with it.
I want to take you back to an article you wrote for the Huffington Post titled, "Why 2014 Needs to Be More About Self-Esteem and Less About the Selfie." Now, you know the Oxford Dictionary has named selfie the word of the year for 2013. So how do we move from one to the other, you know, using social media, obviously, because that's also how it kind of got bigger. And, you know, how does it affect body image that way?
Absolutely. And the thing that struck me is I've been looking at Facebook and what my goddaughter, who's 15, has been posting. And I've noticed that selfies, the photos you just take of yourself, are becoming more and more like model poses. You know, you have to have your legs in a certain position, your hand on your waist to make your waist look thin. And what struck me was that selfies are often taken by girls who lack confidence, because somehow they're looking for approval in other people's reaction to the photo. So the more the pose, the less the confidence. And I had this thought that maybe we could try and encourage a wave of photos that are more natural, that are the sort of carefree photos you take when you're little. When we have our photo taken when we're children, we laugh, we smile, we're not fake. And that's the sort of photo that we need to try and encourage teens of today to take. And I'm actually working with a couple of social network partners on that at the moment to really try and reverse the curve. Because I guess what I'm trying to do with my book, with all of this, is provide an antidote to the virus that is low self-esteem that's kind of flowing around the networks at the moment, that unfortunately never leaves children alone, because they're always on Facebook, they're always on
and eventually, if you know, and I know you and I have talked about this earlier, if you start with this low self-esteem when you're young, it actually transcends into adulthood, you know, teenagehood, and then eventually adulthood, and it can affect you in so many difficult ways when you're trying to enter society or at work. You know, it's just this belief that you're not good enough or you don't look good enough.
Absolutely. I mean, it affected me. I was borderline anorexic when I was in my early 20s. I made difficult choices for myself because I didn't believe in myself, both in work and personal relationships. And there are many cases of famous women at the moment who are coming out and saying they have low self-esteem. Jennifer Lawrence is one of them. Rebecca Adlington, an Olympic swimmer, broke down recently and felt that she's just wasn't good enough and not pretty enough compared to other models and celebrities around her. So it doesn't leave you alone unless you treat it.
Okay.
And, you know, there are lots of solutions though, which is great.
Which is why also, you know, I think people need to get this book and write it. And I know this is part of a trilogy. Also, there's The Ugly Little People and The Ugly Little World. Can you tell me where this is available?
Absolutely. At the moment, it's available on all ebook platforms, so you can get it on Amazon Kindle, on Kobo, on iBooks, and soon it will be available in paperback in bookshops.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being with us today, Elizabeth Kisses, the author of The Ugly Little Girl, talking about the importance of self-esteem in today's world, which is, you know, something we all need to hear about, and this is why we chose her as our first inspirational woman of 2014. And on that note, I'm going to end our bulletin for today and remind you of our headlines. Attending the St. Maroon Day Mass, President Michel Sleiman describes as shameful the ongoing delay in the formation of a new government. Free Patriotic Movement leader MP Michel Aoun announces his support for the recently declared Kirki Treaty, saying that he will see that it is implemented. And the UN's humanitarian chief, Valerie Amos, vows to push on with relief deliveries to civilians trapped in Homs after a Red Crescent Aid convoy was attacked there. Those are your Sunday headlines live on Future Television in Beirut. I'm Yumna Naufal, wishing you a great week ahead. Thank you for watching and good night.
داعش وحزب الله والنظام ثلاث وجوه لعملة واحدة.